All right, what's up, Dragon Brew? Let's talk about bats. I think bats have a lot of different ways we can build these right now. And I think the overall theme is going to be the same, right? We're trying to obviously gain life, lose life, trigger our things. I think it's just going to come down to how many things you're going to play that have you both gain and lose life if you want to go that route. Do you want to gain life and have your opponent just lose life? Or are we just doing the self life gain thing? I think there's a few different ways we could approach that. Or truthfully, I think you can even play just mono black with bats kind of splashed in. I think that's a realistic option too. Here, we're going to be more on the gain life with the occasional lose life plan kind of built in here. So we're just going to run down all the cards we have in the list. I think these are alphabetically by type here in this one, so we're going to go with a couple of Akhlazot's Deepest Betrayal. Obviously, the life gain is why this is in here. The discard's a nice bonus, especially when paired with a couple of our other cards in the deck, but really, we just want a nice upper end, and it was kind of between this and the other 5 mana bat that's in the set. I think, like, if you gain life, your opponent lose life, unless they sacrifice a permanent or something or discard a card. But the way we were looking at it here is I wanted the most consistent card overall, and I decided to go with Akhlazot's instead. We are going to play Darkstar Augur. This card is a little bit dangerous because we do have some 4 and 5 mana things in the deck. This is the 3 mana 2/3 with Offspring of 1. It has flying. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. This can get rough if you hit a 4 and a 5. However, a big chunk of the deck does gain life, so this shouldn't hurt us too much. And I do like that this is a 2/3, so it gives you a few extra blocking options, which is nice. Deep Cavern Bat, we all know what this is. It annoys everybody. It's been around standard for a minute now, and the lifelink obviously is really good on this. Essence Channeler, this is going to be in pretty much every bat deck alongside the Deep Cavern Bat, I'm pretty sure. This is a 2 mana 2/1. Every time you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When it dies, you get to move those +1/+1 counters to something else, which is great if you have something like a Deep Cavern Bat, because then now you have a lifelinker with a bunch of counters. But if you lost life this turn, Channeler has flying and vigilance. So not just do you get to put counters on it, but if you lost life, now it also flies and has vigilance, which is super nice. So no surprise there. This is going to be a card that's definitely really popular in bat decks. Life Creed Duo, this one's pretty self-explanatory too. It's a 2 mana 1/2. It has flying. Creature enters, you gain life, right? Not much else to say about here other than just keeping your life total up. Now, I decided to go a little bit different here with Sanguine Evangelist because I realized several of our early bats are kind of small and aren't going to really get the job done on their own. But Sanguine Evangelist makes a bat, which is sweet, and when it dies, it also makes a bat. And it gives us 2 creatures. So in the event your opponent's still playing like Shieldred's Edict or something like that, cool, you can sacrifice something else and still have another creature out here getting work done, which I like a lot. Because I expect we're going to still see a fair amount of stuff like Liliana, because there are some discard builds that are really good. I'll have one featured on the channel at some point in the first couple of weeks of the season. But I can tell you early on, the discard decks are going to be pretty sweet too. So yeah, this could actually fit here perfectly well, and it gives us a way to kind of keep the pressure up, especially with lifelinkers. Now, this one is a vampire and not a bat at all, really, but it's a 2/4 for 4. It's flying whenever a creature power 2 or less enters a battlefield under your control, which is the majority of our stuff. Each opponent loses a life, you gain a life. Fantastic. Then you can pay 7, which you rarely do unless the game's just gone really long. Creatures you control with power 2 or less gain Death Touch and Lifelink. So it just turns everything on to be able to do more damage. But yeah, this is actually really good. Just another way to drain your opponent and just keep your life total up high. And it's a 2/4, which is nice because it can block a lot of things. Now, another one of the new bats that's actually pretty cool here is a 3 mana 3/3. It's Zoraline Cosmos Caller. This has vigilance and flying, which I like a lot because you're getting a little bit more for that 3 mana. But whenever bat you control attacks, you gain a life. And generally, this is kind of just like an okay ability, but when you consider the fact that the bats are all flying, your opponent's not going to have many opportunities to block. Or even if they do, you can like sneak through the best thing just to get a point. And then that way you can activate your other stuff. However, this does actually have another ability that whenever it enters or attacks, you can pay a black and a white and 2 life. And then if you do, you return target non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it, which basically means that if it dies, it's exiled instead of going back to the graveyard. This is a super powerful ability when you consider a very large majority of our quality cards cost 3 or less. So you can attack, pay 2, get a thing back out, do your business, right? Like, it's actually really, really cool. This card can lead to a lot of wild situations, which could be a lot of fun. Now, of course, with all of these creatures, we do actually need some removal. So the next part of the deck, we have some Bitter Triumph. Why? Because it's a way for us to lose life if we want to, right? And we have a couple of things that'll trigger also from losing life. Not a lot, but this is actually a really cool one because it gets something out of the way and can trigger our other stuff. Playing a couple of Dawn's Truce, mostly because I want to protect stuff like our Essence Channeler and things like that, that once you start investing some counters and some time into a card, want to be able to save it. But this can actually save your team from sweepers that aren't Sunfall for the most part. So this is actually pretty cool, and just randomly have to give your opponent a gift. But if they're tapping out to kill your board and you can just protect everything, you don't really mind giving them a card. You'll just try to finish things off the next turn. We're also going to try Sonar Strike. We've seen versions of this card where, like, you pay 2 mana, destroy something with power 4 or greater, a tapped creature, whatever. Well, this one is 2 mana, instant, deals 4 damage to target attacking, blocking, or tapped creature, which is pretty much everything but a Shieldred that's just sitting there staring you in the face, right? But you get the upside if you get to gain 3 life if you control a bat. So again, this works for all your life gain triggers. This takes out a sizable creature, really, for the most part, or anything that blocks is going to kill most of those. Notably, it doesn't do anything to Planeswalkers. However, we do have Bitter Triumph for that. But this is just a nice little extra additive to get some problematic cards out of the way. And we are playing Case of the Uneaten Feast, because every time a creature comes into play, we gain a life. Then if we've gained 5 or more in a turn, we solve the case, and that allows you to play stuff from your graveyard. So, just a good quality card. We don't have that much to play really early in various builds, so this is like the best card we can play on turn 1. And we're going to also include Lunar Convocation. This is a 2 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, each opponent loses 1. So basically, with all the stuff we have that gains life, you're just draining your opponent for a point every turn, which is good against some of the like control decks and other things. You kind of make everything you play a problem from your opponent, which is nice. But at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life and lost life, and again, we have a couple of cards that let us do both of those things, you get to create a bat. And it's just a token with flying, just a 1/1. But if you need to lose life, you can pay a colorless and a black and 2 life to draw a card. So another way to fuel your hand, keep building your board, keep things moving. Great recovery after a sweeper, because you can just like, all right, I'm going to pay 4, pay 2 life, draw some cards. And the best part is, this isn't done as a sorcery. This doesn't have to be on your turn. You can do this whenever, which is really big, because I feel like a lot of times we've been getting these types of abilities. They've been kind of, I don't know, speed locked, if you want to call it that. And this one's not. So you can wait and see what your opponent does, then decide if you even want to activate this. Land-wise, everything kind of looks like what we expect. Cavern of Souls here. We might have too many, but it's fine. 3 probably works, as if you don't want to play 4. Obviously, all of the multicolor lands are making the cut here. I'm going ahead and trying a couple of copies of Fountain Port, because it does give you the ability to pay a life, right? To make a 1/1. Now, I don't know how badly we need the 1/1, but if we just need to lose a life, this is a way we can do it. And a couple of things that make tokens, we can sacrifice stuff to draw a card. So it's kind of just a utility card in here that helps fuel the deck a little bit. And then we are playing a copy of Lupin Flower Village, because we can go search for one of our bats, which is great because we have some good utility bats we might want to go look for. And then Mudflat Village lets us return something from our graveyard to our hand. So just one of each, just as kind of late game utility stuff. Nothing too crazy there. Otherwise, everything's kind of what you expect there. But yeah, I think overall I don't want to say trap. I almost said they're trap for bats, but I think the issue with bats is just going to be making sure your deck is focused to do the thing you're trying to do. If you want to do life gain and drain, make sure there's enough of both of those, right? If you're just focusing on the life gain, ignore the life loss part, right? If you're doing the thing that just drains your opponent every turn, make sure you have enough to keep that going. Because there's a lot of ways you can do this, and you don't want to get caught, without enough resources to do both of the things or either of the things you're trying to do. One last thing as a reminder, if you're looking for other deck lists, I have a playlist that's been linked in this video. You can check that out. It's got stuff using both old cards, and new cards, depending on what you're looking for and what resources, wild cards, whatever you have. So check those out. And I'm going to link the video that we just did for rabbits as well, if you want to get into that and see what that looks like. But that's all of you for now. We'll see you next time.